So you're having a great time, you tailgate, you feeling good, you go in, the Giants lose. They lose 17-16.
Oh my God.
Has Daniel Jones played his last game as a Giant?
I think so. Because I think this is what's going to happen. I think Dable, after that game, they're going to come back. If Mara doesn't lose his mind, I think they're going to sit down and they're going to have a conversation. And Dable is going to say to him, listen, we all agree we need to get a quarterback. Okay. Daniel Jones is not going to be the future of this team. That injury settlement is going to be a huge problem that's going to ruin us for the future. Okay. We did the Daniel Jones experiment. We're moving on. So we're going to put in Drew Lock. We understand that Daniel gives us the best chance to win, but at this point, we don't want to win games because of what happened last year. We missed out on quarterbacks. We can't afford to do that again. And I'm going to assume that there's some sort of conversation like that goes on, and then they bench DJ and put in Lock for the rest of the year. And the thing that I always wonder, though, is like, how do you justify that to the players? Like, I don't know how they're going to go about doing that and having that conversation with someone like Dexter Lawrence. I don't know if they do that. I don't know how honest they'll be with them. But I wonder, if that's the plan. I do feel like they're going to use the injury guarantee and say, we're done here.
Anthony, what do you think?
I don't think he'll be benched if they lose. And it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different problems. One of them being the fact that this guy always plays good enough. And this was like my big phrase that I kept using on Fireside Giants all throughout the offseason. I kept saying it's no longer good enough for Daniel Jones to be good enough. He needs to be great. Otherwise, we're done with him. And I think that's held true throughout the season for everyone except for the New York Giants. For some reason, they are okay with him being good enough. And I'm sure that somehow if they lose this game, they'll hang in there tight. Daniel Jones will have 0 interceptions or something. And so for that reason, they'll say, okay, well, he was good enough. He's not the reason that we lost, so we'll keep going with him. That seems to always be their justification. If he's not the reason that they lose the game, if something else causes them to lose, they just keep going with him as a starter. I think it's asinine, but it is just the way that they operate. And I think a lot of it does have to do with what Adriana just mentioned about the Giants needing to justify their moves to the players. Dexter Lawrence is sick and tired of losing. He doesn't want to lose any games down the stretch, certainly not intentionally. So the Giants are going to play and coach to win because that's what they have to do. That's what they get paid to do. They don't get paid to lose, especially not Brian Dable. I mean, the general manager has to plan ahead for the future. The head coach's job is to plan ahead week to week and win the games. And that's what he needs to prove he's capable of doing. I think last year, they did exactly what Giants fans wanted them to do. I think that they tried to lose games by starting Tommy DeVito. That was their way to do it. Put in the backup quarterback, see what you got. Because Tyrod Taylor came back and was healthy, and they still didn't put him back in the lineup. They were like, send the third stringer out there. Maybe we'll lose some games. Maybe we'll be competitive. Who knows what happens? Just by the sheer will of God, Tommy DeVito went crazy, won those 3 games in a row, and totally screwed us out of our draft position. It was a great 3 weeks, a lot of fun, especially for me. But at the end of the day, it screwed the Giants out of that draft pick. And I think that we're probably going to see something similar. If the Giants make a move later on this year at quarterback, it's going to be like a thin veil. It's going to be, we're making this move to be competitive right now, but it's really because they're trying to lose, like it was with Tommy DeVito. But I think the thing with the injury guarantee that everybody forgets, because it's always the situation that's always referenced, is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson didn't get benched until week 16. So I don't know if the Giants are really going to care about it until they get really late into the season. And by then, I think it's going to be too late and jobs are going to be lost because of that. So I hope that he gets benched sooner rather than later. But again, the way that this team pussyfoots around this situation and the way that they're just fine with being good enough, or at least with their standard of good enough, because it's not good enough to me, I think he's going to keep that starting job for at least the next 3 or 4 weeks.
That's interesting because I've been saying the whole time, if they're going to make a move, it's usually after a bye week, because that way you get, a week with the starters. You get a couple of weeks of practice with the starters. And the reason I say this about benching him is because Adriana's, but there's a lot of things that go into this. And to your point too, Adriana talks about the injury clause. You talk about, you want to be competitive because it's the best chance to win. But if you're 2-8, and you just lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL, at some point, Dable could come up with the excuse that we've tried this. Like Adriana said, the Daniel Jones experiment, we're 2-8. We just lost to the Panthers, for crying out loud. who can we beat with Daniel Jones? I want to try to win games. So I'm going to make a change, even though he really don't want to win games, but I want to make a change of quarterback. So also saves Daniel Jones getting hurt. I want to make a change of quarterback. I want to see we have Drew Lock. Drew Lock is still young. Drew Lock was an early second-round pick. Maybe we have something in Drew Lock. We know we don't, but maybe we see if we have something, and maybe he is our future quarterback. I guess what I'm saying is Brian Daboll, if wanted to make the move, he could justify why he made the move. If they're 2-8, you're out of it at this point anyway. You're not making the playoffs. The season's a wash. So you might as well do this and save yourself the, possibility of Daniel Jones getting hurt and having to pay him that money. Then you're really screwed. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, if they win, obviously he's not going to get benched. I don't think he'll get benched at all if they win. But if they lose, and he plays poorly, and they lose, I definitely could see him, Brian Daboll saying we're going forward with a different quarterback. But at this point, now I can only speak for myself, and I've said this on my channel. I've been a Giants fan for 41 years. I have never in my life gotten to a point where I was just like, lose out. If it just flush it. If being rock bottom, if having to be 2-15 or 3-14, if you have to suffer through that to get a guy, I'm not saying Jay Daniels, but to get a guy that turns your team around like a Jay Daniels, it gives you a fresh start that rejuvenates the team and says, hey, look at this, a bunch of new energy. And you have a totally different guy in there. And you're getting your quarterback, whoever it is. I don't know who they want. I'm a Cameron Ward guy, but if they want Shedeur Sanders or whoever it is, this guy comes in and it's just an exciting prospect. All of a sudden, there's life in your team. Right now, we know what Daniel Jones is. He's Daniel Jones. And like Anthony said, he's not good enough to be good enough anymore. He's not ever going to be great. He is going to have one good game, and then he's going to suck. And his one good games give us 20 points. And isn't it bad that we have to sit here and say, he's not the reason we lost? Like, that is where we are with Daniel Jones. He's not the reason we lost. This is how low the bar is set for this guy. Well, he's not the reason we lost. He had 215 yards. I'm not saying in this game, but example, just 215 yards and a touchdown. In terms of, he played pretty good. That's not good. Not this day and age. So it's just, it's tough being a Giants fan right now.